We got
Thank
joy. We got faith. Okay, Barbara. There we go. Thank you. I'd hate to not know what I was saying, as if that could happen. Okay, so we got you. No, you can turn that off. I don't know who turned that light on. Turn that off. Good. I like to really have a nice theatrical look. That looks good. So, we got joy. First of all, I think that's the first time you've ever sang that live, right? Yeah. So, I wanted to give another round of applause for her. Yeah. Especially because she did something new. She actually took this that she wrote and did a recording of and actually got up and had to sing it live and see if it all meshed out. And it did. No, it's here's the thing. We got joy, except when we don't. How many of you have ever experienced something in your life where you didn't have joy? Anybody? Nobody? Am I the only one? So we've all had those moments where we don't have joy in our lives and things feel a little bit icky. It's a spiritual term, icky. Well, what I'm here to talk about tonight is the fact that even in those icky moments, we got joy. There is joy, that we are a choice. We're a choice to be somewhere feeling like, oh my God, the ground has just dropped out from underneath me, but to still remember we got joy. And I love the lyrics in this song. It says, we got so much to celebrate. Now, I have to tell you, the world today doesn't seem to be celebrating much. The world today seems like people are on fire. I was at the gym the other day. Yes, believe it or not. I get up every single day and go to the gym, and I was on the treadmill at the gym. And on either side of me, well, first of all, CNN was all in front of me on all the news stations. And on either side of me were these two people who must have had their headphones plugged into CNN, because at the exact same time, I was getting like this stereo version of, I mean, literally, and I'm listening to Deepak Chopra trying to talk to me about L is for love. But somehow his voice was not as loud as, And I'm like, wow, people are really, and you look in this gym, right, Bob? You look down into the workout space, and I'm watching all these people literally having very intense conversations. I was like, there doesn't seem to be a lot of joy in this. There seems to be a lot of constriction, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of anger. But I'm here to teach and to say and to celebrate the idea that, no, we have joy no matter what. Just say those three words for me. Dr. Tom Costa, who was the minister in Palm Desert, he always said that. He said, just always put that after whatever you say. I've got joy, no matter what. I am successful, no matter what. I am loved, no matter what. Because there is a truth and a reality underneath everything in our lives that literally beats anything that we could, from the relative world, be bringing forward. So, we've got so much to celebrate. Now, what's interesting, I love in her lyric there, she says, you think you got the blues. And then I love the next line, extra, extra, read all about it. How many of you, yeah, you already know what I'm going to say, whoever just laughed. How many of you are literally walking around saying to the world, extra, extra, read all about my blues? No, nobody? Yeah, you're just being quiet. So, extra, extra, read all about it. So the question I have, one of the questions I have for you tonight is, what are you announcing to the world? Now, here's the thing. You do not have to get up on a stage like this and announce to the world, oi, my life is miserable. I don't know why I just turned Jewish. But you do not have to be screaming it from the mountaintops. You don't even have to be sharing it with your friends. You don't even have to be saying it to yourself. But you're probably thinking it at times. So I really want you to think tonight about what in fact are you announcing to the world? Just think about today. What did you announce to the world today? What have you been announcing to the world? And here's my real question. What have you been announcing to the world your whole life? And I'd like to say your whole expletive life. What have you been announcing? What are the stories? What's the story you have been telling your whole life? What's some of the stuff, as I talked about at the beginning of service, what's some of the stuff you continue to activate by putting it out there? Because here's what I'm here to tell you today. That stuff is probably a lot of old stuff. Yes? It's just old crap, and it tends to define us, and if we allow it to define us, then it lives us, and it brings what comes next. And then you just keep regurgitating a lot of same old, same old, same old, same old, same old, same old, same old stuff. But the title of my talk today is Everything New. But think about that juxtaposition. How do you get from old stuff that we are like mired in and we're so comfortable in? I could literally sit down in a lotus position and just be comfortable in my old stuff. Any of you have that feeling sometime? It's just so easy to be comfortable here. But how do we get from here all the way over to here by the piano where everything's new? Where it's just everything new. And if we're going to live this month on, I love that you're sitting in that chair. I looked over and I went, do we have a delegate with us today? That was great. But yes, actually, yes. Oh my God, I can say it. So last week we talked about him on Wheel of Fortune. So he won $23,700. Gareth, you just turned the lights out on me. Gareth, please turn them back on. Preciosa, yeah, talk amongst yourselves apparently. Preciosa, do you know how to do that? Yes, please get your phones out and light me. Thank you. Thank you. So on Wheel of Fortune, I don't know, what's the message there? I tried to highlight, and you've been trying to say that's no big deal. So I announce it and the lights go out. Yes, it is very powerful. The man won, what is it? It's $23,700, $23,800, and a trip to the Dominican Republic. So how are we going to get out? You know you're equal to that too, right? It could not have happened if you weren't equal to it. There is no random act of kindness that the universe is giving anyone. It's not the way it works. You get what you're equal to. Some of you may be really upset with that right now. But for you, good for you. So how do we get from here to here? Well, I'm going to talk about that tonight. So everything new. So I want to read this quote from Ernest Holmes. But before I do, I want to say the real answer to that question is your willingness to use the science of mind. That's how you get from there to there. Your willingness to use this philosophy. You're all sitting here. I loved what Reverend Karen said about, some of you might hate unity, and I don't know why you're here then. I love that. That was a very funny moment. But it's true. I don't know why you're here if you're not willing to use this philosophy to get from there to there. Because you can. Because that's what this philosophy does. This philosophy changes lives. This philosophy turns an actor who was always worried about his next job into somebody who makes a lot of money and is really excited with what I do in life. That's what this philosophy did. Through me. Not because it just did it for me. It did it because I did the work through me. So that's how it can work. If you're willing to put the time in to understand this philosophy, you can go from there to there. And by the way, here is just the beginning of there and of there and of there. And that's what this whole year is about, stepping it up. Step up your understanding of this science. So with that, here's what Ernest Holmes says. A new light is coming into the world. We are on the borderland of a new experience. The veil between spirit and matter is very thin. A new science, a new religion, and a new philosophy are rapidly being developed. Now, just to be clear, he wrote that in 1926. And some of us are still reading that saying, oh my God, it's so exciting. Something's about to happen. So it was almost 100 years ago, almost. So let's talk about the first thing, the borderland of a new experience. I think a lot of people come into this science and they hear what they want to hear, which is that you can change your life. Change your thinking, change your life. That's exciting. And you come into this science and you think, wow, I can change the experience of life I'm having now into one that I want. That is exciting. And that is what literally people resonate with when they come into these rooms. The question is, once you resonate, what do you do next? Yes, it resonates because it's the truth. Now, what's next? Well, now I have to make sense out of it. I have to make sense out of it so I can believe it. Because as Jesus said, it is done unto you as you believe, which is basically what this whole teaching is about. So you have to be willing to do the work to make sense out of it, spiritual logic out of it, so that you understand it enough to say, yes, I'm in. Because if you just hang around the sidelines, it doesn't really change much. You have a fun time every Sunday night, but it doesn't change a lot in your life. It gives you a respite. It gives you a place to go, get away from all that for a little while, but you got to go back into all that. And if you can go back into all that as something other than your old self, something brand new, or as Ernest Holmes says, bordering a brand new experience of you, that's what I'm after for each and every one of us. So he says also, the veil between spirit and matter is very thin. And what he's talking about is this whole concept of living a spiritual life or a human life. You know that whole thing, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, or I'm a human being having a spiritual experience. Pick one, because people don't ever know which one they're saying. Why? Because it actually doesn't make sense. You are a spiritual being, and end of sentence. Because a human being is a spiritual being, and a spiritual being is a human being. You just get to live life at whatever level you've worked your mind to live it at. That's how it works. So when he says the veil between spirit and matter is very thin, yeah, in 1926, this is 2017, the veil between spirit and matter is gone. Do you know that? How many of you believe that? Raise your hand. Okay, so the line between spirit and matter is gone because you realize you are spirit and you are matter. This ground that I'm standing on, this piece of wood, is nothing but matter. It is a bunch of cells all coming together, holding itself together to hold me up. It's an extension of me. I am an extension of it. It's all one thing. That's what we are finding out. So this veil between spirit and matter is gone. And that's how we get very logically to the understanding, I am God. I am God is just not some cute phrase that I made up. It's not. People think it is. Someone said that to me. They said, did you make that up? I was like, yeah, I made up I am God. And you are not. It's I am God, and so is everything else in the planet. I mean, there was a book written in the 1920s called I Am God. It didn't get a lot of play. The time was not right for it. And then Three Magic Words, the movie that we did at our center, even that didn't get the play, and that was only a few years ago because people are afraid of that. But this is the thing that Ernest Holmes says we are on the border of. This is the teaching. This is the passionate, exciting new philosophy that we are literally on the border of. Don't you want to get off that border? Don't you want to just, that line I talked about last week, don't you want to just walk past that border and say, I'm here. Now what is there to know? So he says, a new science, a new religion, a new philosophy are rapidly being developed. They are evolving. That's what he thought in 1926, that these things are evolving. Well, we've had 100 years to evolve, folks. Here's the thing about evolving. You are evolving because you can't not evolve. As a divine entity, as a spiritual being, you are always evolving, you are always growing, you are always expanding. You cannot stay stagnant. Even if you feel like your life is stagnant, your life may be stagnant because you have taken this evolving, creative, passionate energy and literally held it over here and said, I can't. I suddenly turned into that character from Singing in the Rain. I can't stand it. So the more you do that, the more you stay here, the more you try to hold on to this thing and stay in the old, you don't allow for the new. You don't allow for the expansive. You don't allow for that bigger thing, that new evolving philosophy, that new truth. So I found this quote. We all know it. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, that's what this is all about. And it's from the Bible, something I don't quote often. And it's this: behold, I make all things new. How many of you know that quote? Most of us. How many of you don't know that quote? It's so my group. So, behold, I make all things new is something that Jesus was supposed to have said. He is quoted as the person that wrote that said that. Behold, I make all things new. So, new in that sentence is not, behold, I make that new thing in my life, that new bauble. It's not, behold, I make a new job for myself. It's not that. It's, behold, I make all things new. New actually means consciousness. Behold, I make all things through consciousness. That's how this is understood in New Thought, certainly. Behold, I make all things new. So new is consciousness, it's not a thing. So how you approach your life will determine all things new. So the truth is, you actually can't create anything new with the old consciousness that has been creating all things old. How are you going to create new with the same consciousness that created the old if you want something different? You got an answer for me? Who said belief? That was good. It's true. But you can't. You've got to be willing to change your consciousness. That's where this comes from. Change your thinking, change your life. Change your thinking, change your life. Change your consciousness. Again, I got to ask myself, how am I going to change my consciousness? How am I going to get from this consciousness to that consciousness? Well, the same way you get to Carnegie Hall. Right, the number one subway takes you to 57th Street, and then you walk. Did you just say that too? No, practice, spiritual practice. Are we willing to put the time in for this spiritual practice? So how you approach everything in your mind is how everything shows up in your life. It really is that simple. Now, the actual quote I just gave you is from Revelations, and it's actually this. This is actually the quote. You ready? Then he who sat on the throne said, behold, I make all things new. He who sat on the throne said, behold, I make all things new. What do you think that means? He who sat on the throne. I'll tell you. Jesus was supposed to have said this. And his followers looked at Jesus and said, behold, look at this man. He is so high. He's so high. He is so far above us. He comes from some place in mind that none of us can even aspire to get to. Even though he kept telling them over and over, whatever I do, you can do. You will do greater things as life evolves. So they put him on this throne. They put him up on this pedestal, and they said, behold, look, he can make all things new for us. Well, as it turns out, that's just not the way it works. And he would be the first one probably to tell us that, and to say, oh my God, I came to tell you you already could do it all. I didn't come to tell you that you had to wait 10,000 years and supplicate yourself to all things religious in order to do this. So this idea of the throne is really the idea of consciousness. How are you going to get your consciousness up here? How are you going to be willing, and surrender to using your mind only for good? How are you going to really decide, really take that step, that bold new step, and say, I will not think thoughts that deter my good. I will not believe things about myself that will take me down a notch. I will not believe things about the world that will give me a fearful understanding of it. I will not believe anything other than the truth that there is to know, and that is that I am the person on that throne. That's who I am. And when we can step ourselves up into that level of consciousness and not play the game, if you can stand on a treadmill listening to Deepak Chopra and listening to two other people, and then take your headsets off and literally zone them all out, including Deepak at that particular moment. Now you're ready, or as my speech impediment would say, now you're ready. Now you're ready to start anew. Now you're ready to make all things new. Because guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be looking at your life with different eyes. You're not going to look at your life and say, oh my. You're not going to be looking at the same old, and walking around living the same old stuff. If I had $1 for every single person that runs into financial difficulties throughout their life, I would be a gazillionaire. Because it seems to be one of the things that most people have a hard time understanding. What prosperity is. It is nothing more than an energy. That's it. Prosperity is energy. Money is energy. And the only way money shows up in your life is if you understand that you are the money. You are that very energy. But most people are so constricted around money. They wait until it shows up, and then they get constricted, and they try to hold on to it. And as you hold on to it, you are informing the universe that you don't believe it's ever coming back again. So I'm going to hold on to this and not give a penny of it anywhere. I'm going to keep it for me and my family, and we need this. And we don't get it. We need nothing. We need nothing other than to say, I know who I am, bring it on. That's seeing with new eyes. That's living from a new perspective. So this year, we are using the theme of stepping it up on the throne. And this month is everything new. So I want to ask you to try something for this month. When you wake up in the morning, I would like you to do your best to uninform yourself of what your day is all about. You think you could do that? Wow. 3 people went, yeah. I can hear your mind. You're like, go on. And then what? I can hear you, right? I know, right? Exactly. We're not saying yes till we hear this whole deal. We're not coming to your house to cook. So I would like you, when you wake up, to just say to yourself, okay, I don't know what this day is going to be about. I know nothing that is going to happen today. You can keep your schedules. I have schedules. I have people that I have to meet and all. So you have schedules, but I know nothing about this day. And then be willing to take the 5 minutes, that's all it's going to take, the 5 minutes it's going to take for you to surrender your day. Put on some beautiful music, take a walk in your neighborhood, whatever it is you can do to get to attach yourself, to literally dig deep, to let yourself root yourself, to ground yourself in who you are. And just say, I surrender this day to my highest good. And I want you to use those words. I surrender this day to my highest good. There's a third part to this. So first you're going to uninform yourself, disabuse yourself, detach yourself. Beautiful law of detachment. Detach yourself from your day. And then really, really give yourself 5 minutes at least to surrender to your highest good. And then once that's done, I want you to ask yourself, the world, the universe, to use you today. Use me. Use me for whatever needs being done today. And then go about your day. Do you think you can do that? Yes. If we do that for these today's the 5th, you'd have 25 days. I guarantee you are going to start informing your consciousness that you actually really believe this stuff we study. You're going to actually be telling the universe you actually believe it knows better than you, than your small self. Your bigger self, your highest self, your self that is sitting on that throne knows how to use yourself to the best of your ability. Yourself knows how the world and the universe needs you to show up. And yourself also knows how to let go of your stuff. There is that in you that knows exactly who you are. And it is you. It's what you are. It's who you are. So just to review, you're going to wake up and you are going to, I love the word disabuse, you're going to disabuse yourself of your day. You're going to allow yourself to not know anything about your day. Yes? That's number 1. Number 2, you are going to surrender to your highest good. You get that? I surrender to my highest good. And then the last one is you are going to ask the universe Tell the universe, and actually tell them. I love when Ernest Holmes says, the only way you get to have what you want is to take it mentally. We must be willing to take. We must be willing to receive. We must be willing to say, use me for my highest good, and I am going to take that. I take that I am here to be of service of my highest good. So there you go. You've got 1, you've got 2, you've got 3. And that should not take you that long in the morning. And if you're one of those people that wakes up in the morning and just jumps right to the coffee pot and turns on the television, please don't this month. See what happens if you don't. See what happens if you don't rush to the TV to see what's happened overnight. See what happens if you actually instruct the universe what your day's about. I'm not saying you shouldn't look to see what happened overnight. You should. After you know who you are, after you've already decided what your day is going to be about, and after you've already told the universe to use you for your highest good, I guarantee you whatever happened overnight, you're going to look at with very different eyes. So there you go. That's what we get to do this month. And I'm only saying 5 minutes. If you can work it up to a half an hour, awesome. That's my goal. I try to spend at least, I have 2 dogs, so I get to take them on a walk, and they're long walks. We take these long walks in the morning now because that's where I just allow myself to just surrender to my dog's highest good. So, stepping it up, leading into everything new. That's what we're about this month. You know, Ernest Holmes is a brilliant, brilliant man. Jesus of Nazareth was a brilliant, brilliant man. There are so many wise masters for us to learn from. I think we need to spend more time really learning and deciphering what they came here to tell us, because there is so much more to know than we know, and so much more for us to act upon. So there you go. We get a 1, 2, 3 act upon. A little formula for this month. And I know that if we take this formula and we actually live it and we let it live us, then we will be the people that actually lead the way to showing the world that this philosophy is not something we're waiting for. We are not on the border of it. We are not about to explode and finally have it happen. We are actually living it out loud. Namaste. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So take it